In this video, I'll be tying a size 16 Ghost Wing CDC Baetis dry fly / emerger. On the water, you really want to use a size 18 or 20. This is a great little fly to use during a Baetis blue wing olive hatch. The fly just sits up on the water initially as a dry fly and then into an emerger as the fly becomes waterlogged and floats just under the surface. Actually, my best results fishing this fly has been when it takes on the characteristics of an emerger. I call this fly my messy little Baetis dry fly. So let's get started. We'll take the finished fly out and we'll be putting a TMC size 16. I'm going to be tying a little larger for this video than we'll be using actually on the water. The other materials for this fly are 2 CDC dun feathers, a CDC olive feather for the abdomen, and a CDC tough olive gray feather for the thorax. Petitjean tailing fibers for the tail, and the thread today is a Griffin shear size 14 olive. So we get started by putting a jam knot on the shank of the hook. And we'll wind the thread all the way down to the bend and back to the middle of the hook. What we have here is a Petitjean tailing feather. Great stiff fibers for tails, especially for dries. I also use them on emergers. So you want to grab out here about 6 or 7 fibers, measure it off to the length of the shank, and a couple of pinch wraps to start. Get the feathers right on top of the hook, or actually the barbs. Give me 1 wrap underneath the tail fibers. Push them up and they should come apart, and then up and through the tail fibers, back down along the shank. You want to cut off the excess material. Now we're ready to put on the abdomen feather. We got a CDC olive. Let's bring the thread down to the middle. A couple of light wraps. Pull the CDC through till it's even. Tie it off and then tie down towards the bend of the hook. Then back up towards the eye. Now what you want to do here is you wrap this CDC feather around. You want to twist it a little bit on each wrap on a clockwise fashion. That'll lock down some of the fibers as you wrap it onto the shank of the hook. And we're going to wrap it up to about 2/3 the shank towards the eye. Tie off the feather. Cut off the excess. And we're going to put a half hitch in here just so that it'll hold the thread on as we do a little trimming of the excess material. Just be careful not to cut the thread as you're trimming down the abdomen. Yeah, that looks pretty good. A couple more wraps to secure it. Now we're going to put on the ghost wing. We got some 2 CDC feathers. We're going to fold them together. Cut off the butts. And tie them in at the thorax of the fly. Bring the thread back till we're about 1/3 down the shank. And work feathers up. Bend them over to about the size of the feather you want to create, which is about the length of the shank of the hook. A couple of pinch wraps, and then tie the feathers down firmly. Cut off the excess. Bend the wings up. Now you want to do a couple of wraps around and pull the thread forward so you can stand up the wings. You want to separate them. Like so, and trim off a lot of the excess CDC fibers. Stroke the fibers up and just snip them off. A lot of trimming on this fly, but its performance on the water is certainly worth it. So next, what we're going to do here is we're going to rotate the bobbin counterclockwise just a little bit so we can split the thread and insert, once I can get a hold of it here, an olive gray CDC tuft between the split thread. Need a sharp needle after you've rotated the bobbin to unwind the thread and flatten it out. Makes it easy to split it with a sharp needle once you do the rotation. You can just insert one CDC tuft Trim off the stem, spread the bobs gently down, and rotate the bobbin on a clockwise fashion, probably a dozen to a half a dozen times. That should give you a spiral effect for the CDC dubbing loop. Now you can wind that on the thorax. Stroking up the fibers on the bottom of the fly up towards the wings. And we can tie off a nice, neat little head. Pull it back. Four or five wraps of whip finish. Snug it in there. Cut off the thread. You want to put a little bit of cement or varnish on the head. Run a feather through the eye to clear it. Bring the wings up and separate them. And do here a little trim in here. First of all, we're going to turn it upside down and trim off all the CDC on the bottom of the fly. Don't have to be super neat, but just get it cropped down so there's no big pieces sticking out. So here we have what I call my messy little Baetis dry fly emerger, but actually we're looking at a Ghost Wing CDC Baetis dry fly emerger. Great little fly to work during a Baetis hatch. Thanks for watching.